All right, for this explainer, we're going to play detective. Our mission? To solve the mystery of that glowing and, let's be honest, kind of scary check engine light. We're not going to see it as a problem, but as the very first clue in a case we are about to crack wide open. So let's get started.
You know the feeling, right? You're just driving, minding your own business, and then, bam, there it is. That little orange engine icon just staring back at you. For most of us, that light screams, uh-oh, this is going to be expensive. But what if it's not a warning, but the start of a conversation? So let's reframe this whole thing. That light isn't a sign of impending doom. Think of it more like the first piece of evidence dropped at the scene. It's your car's way of tapping you on the shoulder and saying, hey, something's a little off back here. Here's a clue to get you started. See, when that light pops on, your car's computer, its brain, logs a specific code. It's called a diagnostic trouble code, or DTC for short. A mechanic can just plug in a scanner and read that note. And for our case today, the note says P0171. That's our case file number. Okay, so we've got our first big clue, P0171. But what in the world does that actually mean? We've got to translate this from car speak into plain English. So let's pull the file and see what the official definition is.
And there it is, fuel trim system lean. Now I know, that still sounds pretty technical, doesn't it? But don't worry. The only words you really need to focus on are system lean. Let's break down what that really means for your engine.
The easiest way to think about this is like a recipe for a cake. Your engine needs a very precise mix of air and fuel to run perfectly. When the system is lean, it just means that recipe is wrong. There's too much air getting in or not enough fuel. Either way, the mixture is off balance. Now here's where it gets really smart. Before the car's computer, our master detective, even decides to log this code, it runs a bunch of its own checks first. It wants to make sure all the conditions are just right for a reliable test. It's like a real detective making sure the scene is secure before they start looking for fingerprints.
I mean, just look at this checklist. The computer won't even flag the problem unless the engine's running and warmed up, you've got enough gas in the tank, the battery voltage is good, and, this is key, no other major sensors are already screaming for help. It's a really careful process of elimination.
So, the car's computer has confirmed the code. Now the real detective work begins for the mechanic. They're not just guessing, they're following a very specific diagnostic procedure, like a trail of breadcrumbs, to rule out suspects one by one until they find the real culprit.
First stop on the trail, the induction system. The number one suspect here is what's called an unmetered air leak. Basically, is extra air sneaking into that engine recipe from somewhere it's not supposed to. The mechanic grabs their scan tool to find out.
And this isn't guesswork, it's all about the data. The mechanic is looking for a very specific number on their scanner. It has to be sitting comfortably right inside that little window, between 0.75 and 1.25. That reading tells them if the engine is breathing exactly the amount of air it's expecting to. Now, if that test had failed, these would have been our prime suspects. The usual gang. We're talking stuff like a simple cracked hose, a loose clamp, or even a really dirty air filter. These are the common things that can throw the whole system out of whack, and they're usually the first things a mechanic checks. But in our case,
the test passes with flying colors. The reading is perfectly normal, so we can officially clear our first group of suspects. There isn't a major air leak. This means our mystery is a little more complicated than we thought. We've got to keep following the trail.
So who's next on our suspect list? The mass airflow sensor, or MAF sensor. Think of this thing as the bouncer at the front door of your engine. Its entire job is to measure exactly how much air is coming in. If it's miscounting, that perfect recipe is ruined from the start. And once again, we're not guessing. The diagnosis comes down to the hard data. When the car is just idling, a healthy MAF sensor should be reporting a number somewhere between 5 and 40 grams per second. So the mechanic is watching that number on the scanner like a hawk. And what do you know? The MAF sensor's alibi is rock solid. The reading is right in the sweet spot. So it's not a big air leak and it's not a bad MAF sensor. The plot thickens. We've just eliminated the two most common causes, which means we're dealing with a much craftier culprit.
Okay, so we've followed the diagnostic trail, we've ruled out all the obvious stuff, and the list of potential suspects is getting really, really short. We are getting close now. Our detective has checked every alibi and is closing in on the one component that couldn't cover its tracks.
The mechanic does just a couple of final checks to tie up loose ends, making sure there are no leaks in the exhaust and that all the engine cylinders are pulling their weight. Both tests come back clean. With every other possibility crossed off the list, the evidence now points to a single,
final suspect.
And there we have it, the smoking gun. All the evidence points directly to this one component, the nitrogen oxide sensor, or NOx sensor. Now, its job is to sniff the exhaust gases, but when it goes bad, it can lie to the computer. It can say, hey, there's way too much oxygen back here, which looks exactly like a lean condition, even when the engine's air-fuel recipe is perfect. It was tricking the whole system.
So, after a step-by-step thorough investigation, we finally unmasked our culprit. It wasn't a simple vacuum leak or one of the usual sensors. No, the real root cause of our P0171 code was a faulty NOx sensor that was basically feeding bad intel to the car's computer.
Case closed. The diagnostic manual delivers the final verdict, and there's no room for doubt. Replace the sensor. It's the simple, logical end to a very systematic, evidence-based investigation.
So the next time you see that check engine light pop on, just remember this whole process. It's not just some random scary light. It's the first sentence in a logical story. It's a trail of clues. It's not an unsolvable mystery at all. It's a conversation that your car is trying to have with you. The only real question is, are you listening?